Good evening. I'm Lisa Groot, a member of the local Dubuque League of Women Voters. I would like to welcome the audience here in the City Council chambers and the television audience to this Dubuque County Candidates Forum. The League is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages citizen participation in government. Membership is open to any citizen 16 years of age or older. We would like to thank the candidates for their participation this evening and for their invaluable gift to all of us by being candidates for public office. Running as a Republican for a 4-year term as Dubuque County Supervisor is incumbent Harley Potoff, and as an independent is Jake Rios. Candidates for County Auditor are Democrat Kevin Dragato and Republican Keith Lucy. Unopposed for Sheriff is Joseph Kennedy, a Democrat. Unopposed for County Recorder is Democrat Carol Kennedy. We thank each of these candidates for taking their time to share their priorities and plans for their offices with their constituents. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question and will be reminded of the time remaining with warning cards and finally by the bell. They will have 2 minutes for closing statements at the end of the forum. The questions may be addressed to candidates running for one office, but candidates for other offices may respond if they wish. There will be a short period for rebuttal if desired. Both of those will be for 30 seconds. We will begin with County Supervisor candidates and continue to all the candidates. Why are you a candidate for this office, and what difference will your presence make in Dubuque County? Mr. Potoff.
I am running for another term as Dubuque County Supervisor. We've gotten a lot accomplished over the last 4 years. When I took office, we were in the middle of the COVID pandemic. We worked diligently to get through that, get businesses opened. We distributed the ARP funds throughout the county to help everybody get back on their feet. We have a lot of projects that are making headways now. We have the airport coming back online. I'm working on the Field of Dreams stadium project, and that is going to be starting here shortly, we're hoping. The Chaplain Schmidt Island projects, I'm on the DRA board. We have the new Key Casino in the construction phase. We have the amphitheater that's going to be coming online in 2025, and Pin Seekers coming in 2025. So there's a lot of good things happening in the county. I'd just like to continue seeing them move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Rios?
I decided to run for supervisor because I feel like I have the experience to run for this office in terms of budgets and things like that. I run 4 businesses, 2 here and 2 in Des Moines, and an international event company. I know how to know when to tighten the belt and when to know when there's a prospect on the horizons that can improve efficiency and whatnot. Everything that Harley mentioned are great. I was actually a part of some of those plans in terms of the airport and what was happening on Chaplain Schmidt and things like that. And those are all great projects, and the city seems to be doing a great job moving forward on those. But I also think there are other projects that have a priority outside the city of Dubuque, because city of Dubuque takes care of its own. And I think further reach out to the county is much more important, especially with what's happening with small communities across the country. So that's my main motivation to run. And on to the next person. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Dragato.
Hi, my name is Kevin Dragato, and I'm running for re-election as your Dubuque County Auditor. Thank you to the League for coordinating this evening, and thank you to the City of Dubuque for their technical assistance and the location. 4 years ago, I ran on accountability, transparency, and accessibility. As we progress through questions this evening, you'll see that I've upheld those traits to the highest standards. I'm running again because those traits are never complete. There's always more ways that we can enhance operations, we can open access to the public, and create new ways of doing things. My small business management and accounting background gives me the practical tools necessary to make sound decisions for Dubuque County. My background as a veteran of the United States Army shows that I've always endeavored to serve those around me. And my ability to look past party politics, maybe the most important part, and work with all of those who have different political ideologies, shows that I will represent all of Dubuque County, not just the portion that identifies with my party. Tonight, I look forward to a robust conversation, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lucy.
Thank you, Lisa, and the folks for all being here, and anybody who's watching as well. Appreciate it. My name is Keith Lucy. I am running for County Auditor. I'm originally from Dubuque, grew up here, was in wrestling and for a team captain. I think leadership is one of the biggest things that I'm going to bring to this office. A fresh set of eyes with a new perspective. And leadership is one thing, like I said, I definitely would bring in. I was team captain 4 out of 8 years in wrestling. I also served in the Army here. I was honor graduate in basic training. And for any of you that don't know, that's out of about a company of over 250 people. I was the top candidate for that. Operations sergeant, expert infantry. I excelled in business and graphic design and marketing with an international company. I was manager of the year for 3 years, won the team of the year and helped lead with volunteers and won volunteer of the year. A lot of people know me throughout the community, either from the arts or athletics or through ministry, as well as business. I've got a lot of business experience that I want to bring in, and I think uniquely, I also want to bring a nonpartisan aspect to this, because I think this is a thing that really shouldn't be partisan at all. But I think my career over the last 30 years has uniquely qualified me for this position and prepared me for this exact thing, because dealing a lot with the finances and everything we do.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I appreciate everyone who took the time to come down here. I took this office almost 8 years ago. I'm running for my third term. In the time that I've been sheriff, we've done a lot of great things at the sheriff's office that maybe go unnoticed. We implemented a take-home squad car program that improved efficiency and response times, made the people in the county safer because the officers can get there quicker. That was done with forfeiture dollars. Not a single dime of that was taxpayer money. We've implemented a jail social worker program to help with the mentally ill people in the jail setting, helping them get connected with services outside of the jail setting and not just putting them out on the streets so that they can cycle back into the jail. These are just, a couple of the innovative things that we've done. And I'm very proud to say in the almost 8 years of being sheriff that we've averaged turning back into the county over $400,000 a year in unspent funds that can be moved to other projects. So appreciate the time here and appreciate any conversation to be part of. And thank you again.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy.
First, I'm going to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this all together. I have 30 years experience in the recorder's office. I'm fully knowledgeable of all aspects of the office. Experience is crucial, just being what we have as far as legal and state responsibilities in our office and to what I do. I'm well acclimated with policies and procedures. I'm fiscally conservative on my budget. But my most importantly, reason for running for public office is I take my role as a public servant serious. Public service and to the community is very important to me. And whether it be registering your off-road vehicle, filing your real estate records, anything that we do in our office, most of our day is mainly spent doing public service, so that's very important to me. I'm also a very hands-on working recorder, and I'm willing to do all the staff roles when necessary. I love everything about my job. I love what I do. Thank you.
Thank you all. Our first question is directed to the two supervisor candidates and to Sheriff Kennedy. What is your position about funding mental health services, especially in our jails and rural areas which are underserved? We'll begin with Mr. Rios.
Well, that's perfect because I'm not usually good at remembering the questions. That's why I write them down. Position on mental health services. Did you mention something about the jails and whatnot?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I can't begin to say how important that is because, and it's not just mental health services, it's just helping people in jail in general because growing up in California, my dad was either at work or he was in jail. And I remember we would visit him sometimes at something called the Linnell Camp, which was a place where people would go and apparently they got to see the movies before we did. So that kind of pissed me and my brother off a little bit. But it's just one of those things where he kept going in and out of jail. And that alone is enough to, like rehabilitation programs that California now has that teach people how to develop a trade, and then they send them out to be part of the workforce. They can start their own businesses. So in terms of mental health, that's even more important because it seems not enough people are being cared for out in the community, whether it's in the bigger cities like Dubuque or whether it's out in the county. And I believe out in the county, a lot of things get forgotten. And so I do think that's of the utmost important things to do as a county to support those programs that Sheriff Kennedy might bring about for the supervisors to approve. I can't stress how important mental health and just the general well-being of everybody that just happened to go down the wrong path in life that wants to fix that wrong. So,
Thank you, Sheriff.
This is kind of one of the programs or one of the areas that's kind of near and dear to my heart because I recognize that our jail facility has basically become the dumping ground for people with mental health issues. We see it day to day. We have people up there that do, all kinds of things, and then a lot of times what we get is, in particular, the homeless will come in, and because they don't have an address for the courts to send mail to, they end up staying in our jail a lot of times for longer than what a state sentence would allow them to stay. So we started in conjunction with the East Central Region. May Henshin from the East Central Region approached us about this jail social worker project. It's been a very successful project. You're doing something right when even defense attorneys are coming up to you and saying, hey, this person is doing a great job. We've also worked with the Law Enforcement Liaison Program, also a partially funded program through the East Central Region, and that's to help people on the front side so that they hopefully to interact with them and get them involved in services before they end up in jail. So those are just a couple of the things that we've done in the last few years to kind of help alleviate the issues with mental health people being involved in the jail system.
Thank you. Mr. Potoff.
Due to the changes made about 2 years ago with the East Central Region, the state has taken over all mental health funding. We work closely with the Sheriff's Office and the East Central Region, the social worker program, the law enforcement liaison. The Board of Supervisors has supported, but we actually do not put any funds towards mental health because the state covers all of that at this time. But having worked at the law center, I'm fully aware of the issues that the sheriff has had with the dumping grounds for people with mental illness and trying to keep them off the streets so they let them sit in jail where they're not getting the help that they need.
Thank you. Would any of the other candidates like to respond to this question?
No, thank you.
All right. Then our next question is for our auditor candidates. It's about renewable energy. Renewable energy zoning a plan is being reviewed in terms of size, height, and acres involved. Are all being talked about, and what would you suggest? We'll begin with Mr. Dragato.
That question is probably directed towards the supervisor candidates.
All right, supervisors, you're up.
Sorry, guys.
Nope, I'm just reading the question, sorry. So we started with, Mr. Potoff, we'll start with you.
We are currently working through a solar ordinance to allow for some solar arrays in the county. We're trying to come up with a plan that allows for it, but also keeps our agricultural heritage in place. We have a unique topography in Dubuque County. We have a lot of hills and valleys and creeks and obviously a lot of flooding issues. We want to make sure we get this right. All the people that I have spoken to, no one's in favor of the large 1,000-acre complex like over in Lancaster. We're looking at smaller arrays and scattered around the county, trying to look for areas where we're not going to impact our waterways. There's just a lot of information out there on it. We're trying to compile all that. The zoning board spent about a year and a half putting together an ordinance, and it addresses the larger ones, but it doesn't address smaller arrays that I think would be beneficial to our county.
Thank you. Mr. Rios, your answer?
Yeah, in terms of renewable energy, there's two sides. Both, it's an odd question because you know that you need to provide an independent source for power, but you don't also want to jeopardize your farmland. So I think having a dual use of farms and using areas that are just simply not productive for producing anything. Also, even coming to the city and going to them and using their brownfield areas as areas where they can put solar panels. There's properties in Dubuque that currently don't get used because they're so tainted with pollution and everything else that should be the next step. Like we should be putting them there. There's a whole empty area north of town that could be used for this, and combining it with current agricultural practices would be great. Incentivizing farmers to potentially add these dual uses on their farms would also help. There's places around the world in Germany that currently use grazing areas that are where the animals go underneath the solar panels themselves. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's being done elsewhere. So it's just a matter of getting it knocked through and getting it done. And like I think they said at one of the supervisor meetings was, you don't want it to where a developer is going to come here or anybody who wants to put them in and says, I don't want to deal with this crap. I'm just going to go. And that's true. The supervisors were right in that case. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just use the best practices that everybody else has used. So.
Thank you. I'm guessing from my screw up earlier that nobody else wants to respond to that question.
Just in a nonpartisan fashion, I would like to agree for the record with Mr. Delgado. Yeah, it's a supervisor question, but I think we're all in favor of renewable energy. And it's a complex issue, and there's not just one solution, though, too. There's a lot of different things to look into it. Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you. All right, this question is for the auditors. Having actually read it before reading it. The auditor role is a big job with a very big responsibility that should be filled by someone who has a background in managing money and people. What qualifications do you have to be successful as an auditor? And this time we really will start with Mr. Delgado.
Thank you for the question. Yes, the auditor's office is a big job. We, in our office, we say that we're the center of the hub of the wheel that is county government. I would imagine that every other department is saying that same thing. In our role, we not only see all outgoing county finances, payroll, accounts payable. We are also the clerk to the Board of Supervisors, so we manage all those meetings and take minutes and coordinate those events. We are also, most importantly, the Commissioner of Elections. So that's why we're all here today for this election. So it really does truly take an individual who, in many cases, can handle a job where you do 720 different things each year, one time. My background is in small business management in Chicago for 15 years. I ran and managed a small automotive company where we did sales, service, and storage. And this is a small enough company where I remember the days where sometimes you can't cash your paycheck until your employees are paid. And so you learn fiscal responsibility through that. More recently, here in Dubuque, I worked for the Thompson family, who had TFM Company, which was the Okie Dokies and the A&Ws as their in-house accountant and their controller. And when you combine the small business experience and the in-house financial accounting, along with my service to this country as a veteran, you really do have a complete skill set for this position.
Thank you. Mr. Lucy, your answer.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. As far as that, I see it as definitely there's a team. There's different silos throughout there. When you mentioned the Board of Supervisors, you're the clerk for those. I specifically did that for one of the international companies I was at where we had the board. I would literally take the minutes do the agendas, get all that stuff up. I did that for close to 10 years there. As far as the leadership aspect, like I said, 4 of 8 years as team wrestling captain throughout high school and college, manager of the year 3 years at another organization. And it's just, I look at taking the team and looking for the best that we can out of everybody and helping raise other people up to that level. I have, like I said, vast business experience, almost 40 years of that, and not only dealing with financials, but the people as well. And when you get past the surface area and you want to get the best out of your people, you have to understand who they are and deal with them more one-on-one, find out what their goals are, maybe personally, and get to know them better. I think that would really help with just keeps the team involved there. As far as with the elections, there are certifications, all that, and I'm really glad we have those things in place as well.
Thank you. This question is for the supervisors again. Apologies to the other candidates. Our questions are very supervisor heavy. Iowa has the 7th highest number of people leaving the state per capita. How can our county recruit and retain young, skilled people and professionals?
I think I went first.
You went first? I'm sorry. I'm all screwed up on my thing. I'm very tired. I'm sorry. I don't know where the camera is. So we'll start with Mr. Potoff because you're closest to me.
Okay. Read the question again, sorry.
I'm so sorry.
7th highest.
I'm going to get fired. All right. Iowa has the 7th highest number of people leaving the state per capita. How can our county recruit and retain young, skilled people and professionals?
We have to be able to draw businesses in that have good paying jobs. We do have a lot of people here, but we also have 9 colleges. So we're training a lot of people. We just have to figure out how to keep them here. The younger generation likes amenities. They have to have something to do. I think a lot of that may have been brought on by the COVID pandemic. We have a lot more people seeking outdoor activities now, whether it's hiking, biking, walking trails, outdoor entertainment venues. We just have to keep expanding what we have to keep the younger generation interested here, that we do have something for them and they can be great here. We've brought in businesses with good paying jobs. There's obviously more coming. Housing is an issue right now. It is easing up. There have been numerous units that have been opened up over the past year and a half. I believe by the end of next year, we should be up to 2,000 units, and we were short about 1,100 approximately a year ago. So we just have to keep working towards these amenities for this younger generation to keep them here.
Thank you, Mr. Rios.
Sorry.
In regards to people leaving, everything that Harley says is true. I do love the Field of Dreams project because that encompasses so much. You're going to have minor league teams or, whatever teams might want to come and use that field, and the multiple fields they have is a great thing to do. It will help attract people, and that's on the county side of things. Dyersville is all the way on the other side of the county, so it's not even in Dubuque. And Dubuque does share some of that responsibility too. Sorry, my daycare director is calling, so I'll just turn that over. I'm just wasting time babbling. But anyways, when it comes to people, like I chose to live here, and I saw the promise in the county and in the city, and there are things moving ahead, as Harley mentioned, that are worthwhile for the younger generation. But there are some things that we can do to work in partnership with the cities to make sure that things are. That we're moving ahead, that we're not trying to go back. Even the downtown Dubuque area could be more green. And when it was converted to all roads and sidewalks and everything else, now it's not a pleasurable place to go. And that was changed in the 80s or 90s. So it's moving to what not only just the activities that people can do, but their surroundings and having somewhere where they want to call home. And just taking care of that, not just in the bigger cities, but all our parks and everything else, making life enjoyable. And I do love living here. I wasn't born here, but this is where I want to be buried. So I love the place. So let's see it move forward. Oh, 0. Yeah.
Thank you. Another supervisor question. This time we'll start with Mr. Rios and then follow up with Mr. Padov. The Compensation Board has been given new rules by the state legislature. How will this impact local offices? Mr. Rios, your answer.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question because I caught that in the last meeting, and I've been kind of keeping tabs on that a bit in terms of the compensation board. When I think about it, I kind of think to myself, it shouldn't be this complicated. But I don't know. The effort that they put in, I believe Kevin Dragato put in a process to go forward, and the county supervisors supported that. I believe, probably unanimous at that. So that this man knew what he was doing in that respect to where he's making sure that that's taken care of. I do think there are some positions that could be paid more than what they should overall. And I'm not talking about supervisors. You know, I would never push for a pay raise because I didn't even want to get paid on council. So, but the sheriff here, you know, moving him up to what the average is or matching every other county was a good move. And if it hasn't happened quite as much as he would like, it probably should. But that's up to the supervisors, and having an efficient board that suggests pay raises is a great thing. So I'm glad Kevin did that. And go.
Okay. The compensation board makeup has changed, or the guidelines were changed last legislative session. Previously, the compensation board, which was made up of 2 representatives from the supervisors and 1 from each other elected office, would come up with, I guess, their recommendations for a pay raise for the elected officials. Prior to this year, like last year, whatever the recommended pay raises were, all of the elected officials had to be, if it was not accepted, had to be rolled back the same amount. So if one person was given a 10% raise and some other ones were given a 5% raise, they all had to be rolled back the same if there's 30% or whatever. With the new legislation, each office can be rolled back a certain amount or not rolled back at all, depending on where they're at in the pay scale. The other part of it was that the comp board has to show their work, show their comparables that they can be verified. So we did agree to continue with the comp board with the new regulations on it.
Lisa, if I may.
Yes.
So the state legislature got this right when they made some of these changes. One of the biggest problems we saw was always that the compensation board would factor in what percentages to recommend based on the idea that, oh, the supervisors are just going to roll it back. And that caused a lot of what we call pie in the sky numbers. And so the changes that they made should be reflected amongst that compensation board to actually have those individuals making recommendations and advocating for their elected official without the worry of how is somebody else's bump going to hurt mine. Thank
you. Would anybody else like to talk on to this topic?
I think one thing with the compensation board is my understanding the supervisor said that, you know, whatever they come back with, that's what we're all going to agree with and move forward there too. But it just, you don't want a lot of people carving out for certain positions within their silo also to say this person or that person should get a little more.
Thank you. All right, this question is for the supervisor and auditor candidates. So we'll give you guys a bit of a rest and we'll start with Mr. Lucy and then work our way back. What challenges have recent legislation regarding taxation presented to the county?
I think with taxation, I know the auditor sets up the tax levies, they go through all that. Now, if a lot of people ask me, how does that work though too, there is numerous taxing authorities. Wherever your property lies, there's numerous taxing authorities. So you live in one area, live in another, someone out in Worthington has a different taxing authority throughout. And then they make up a big spreadsheet as far as for every property, is that covered and all the taxation covered in that, and it gets audited that way. I think there's been definitely some different things that went on with interest rates, property values, the assessors. A lot of people, they didn't see their taxes go up. I know mine went down just a smidge as far as the taxation. The property values went up in some areas. The rates either stayed the same, some went up, and some went down a little bit. But it's a pretty complex issue to go throughout. But I think seems like they got it about right on everything right now.
Thank you. Mr. Dragato.
The question was about legislative changes to
Taxation, and
Excellent.
what does that do to the county?
So House File 718, which was passed earlier this year, created a number of challenges for county government, city government, and even for the residents. So we have it's a very complicated taxation system, but it boils down to, we can look at $3.50 is our basic tax levy. And that was put into place in the mid-1980s. Adjusted for inflation, it would be between $6 and $7. Today, however, we've been stuck at that $3.50. Part of this legislation actually reduces that $3.50 further, which pinches it causes the county to have difficulty funding necessary programs. The way valuations work is every piece of property in the county is tallied up, and then those valuations are used to determine property taxes. And one of the things that seems to be counterintuitive is House File 718 included new growth. So if you're bringing a subdivision here, if you're bringing a business here, if you're increasing the value of the county actually gets penalized on that new growth. There were some things they did right, but it is still a work in progress. And our auditors conference does work with state legislators to let them know some of the gaps that need to be corrected and fixed. Thank you.
Mr. Rios.
Yeah, in regards to what the state does in terms of taxes, we have one state legislator here and a potential future senator, I believe he's running for. But we dealt with this at the city level too, where they would change tax codes this way or that way, and the city had to readjust. And sometimes taxes you can't just keep taxing people, or you felt the pinch in the city when we would want programs that sometimes weren't necessarily needed, and when there were efficiencies that could have been improved and could have pulled back on some of that expense to the people. And I do know that there are some things, the county maybe not so much in some respects, but when you have a treasurer who takes otherwise, I don't know what you want to call it, like stagnant funds that don't do anything, and reinvests them so that his department is then bringing in money instead of just letting it sit there. That's the kind of thing to encourage that helps relieve some of that pressure, and maybe potentially can help some of those programs that we might want to push forward, or that the county staff brings to us to push forward. So it's all in how we save and how efficient we are and what we can do. And it's talking to Lindsey James and whoever else are out at the state and putting pressure on them that people are in a pinch. We don't know what the economy is going to turn into in the next 4 years. God knows, we could go into a war and it could all go to pots fairly quick. So we have to be mindful.
That's a depressing thought. That was not a political comment. It was just like, wow, war. Sorry. Tomorrow will be more professional. Mr. Pata.
The legislation did affect the county budget. The rollbacks were all based on the amount of growth. If the county was over 3% growth, you had a certain percent of rollback. If you're up to 6% or over 6%, there was another rollback. I believe Dubuque County ended up at 5.9% growth, which was about the best possible scenario we could have since we were over to 3. It did roll back the general basic levy, but the growth kind of made up for the money that we lost. The part that hurt the county the most is our rural funds for our roads. We were not at maximum tax levy there, but we still had to reduce. So that took funds from our roads. So trying to find the balance to keep moving forward with our road and bridge repair is going to be an issue. And then the inflation over the past few years has really impacted the amount of roads and infrastructure we can do related to those.
Thank you. Any other? Nope.
Just
All
one
right.
thing to think about, all the tax dollars we all pay in, we want everyone to be fiscally responsible with them for sure. But the more services the government provides, the more we pay in. So I think it's up to the supervisors to just, decide out, instead of should we do this or should we do that, should we do either possibly in some cases. But they definitely provide a lot of good services throughout the area here in the county.
Quick comment on that. The county provides a lot of services. A lot of those services are required by the state. We call them unfunded mandates. And what happens each year is the state phases out some compensation for the counties and requires us to continue to provide services without receiving revenue. And so that is one of the larger issues. We pay for the state court system in the courthouse, for those that weren't aware. We have to pay for all of their services in there. And every time we do not receive reimbursement from the state, that's more money coming out of our budget for how we operate.
Thank you all. This question is for the sheriff candidates and supervisor candidates. So we'll start with Mr. Kennedy and then Mr. Potoff and Mr. Rios. Are there things we can do locally to protect the public and schools from gun violence? Mr. Kennedy.
Well, there's always ways to improve. I don't know if you recall, about 3 years ago, the state had every school in the state went through an audit. They paid some company to come in. We personally walked through every school in the county to see what types of upgrades that those schools could make to make a safer environment for their kids. And then each school was then given, I believe it was $50,000 to work on those upgrades. What those schools did with them, some schools needed cameras, some schools needed, stronger doors, things like that. But we're constantly working with the schools, in particular, because we deal primarily with the Western Dubuque School District. We have regular meetings with the school district about these types of issues. In addition to that, just recently we did a big mass casualty drill with the fire departments out in the county, because one of the things that they found in mass casualty incidents is that more people are dying from bleeding out than actually from the injury sustained, the initial injury sustained from a gunshot. So how do we get first responders in there quicker so that we can tend to the wounded and get them out and get them to a safe place? And so that's another one of the initiatives that we've been working on with the volunteer fire departments to make that better for the people in the county.
Thank you. Mr. Potoff, for your answer.
I don't know that there's a way that we can prevent it other than early detection at the school level where there is possibly mental health issues that can be addressed. Without having the information that someone is depressed or has a mental health issue going on and brings a gun to school, I don't know how we can do it without making every child go through a scanner. That it's education, obviously. I've worked with the sheriff's office, obviously. Years ago, we were training for mass casualty things. Just recently, the Tom Hancock Grant Committee approved a grant for Kevlar vest, for bulletproof vest for first responders, that they can go into a warm zone with the sheriff's office and try to remove people that are injured instead of waiting until the whole situation is secure. We have to get the injured out and get them treated and try to save lives. I think the biggest issue would be identifying those with some mental health issues and trying to get them help before we get to that point.
If I could make one correction, when Harley said that they approved the vest carriers, those were steel plate carriers, not Kevlar. So they are a higher level of security than Kevlar vests. So
Sorry about that, you're right.
Would anybody else like to respond to this question?
Oh, was it
Oh, you do also get to
Yeah.
answer the question.
So, I guess as Harley had mentioned, mental health is a big issue. We talked about mental health in terms of the jails. So that would be, it kind of, not to say that kids are criminals because they're in school, but sometimes jail does feel like a jail, or school does feel like a jail. But anyways, mental health is a big issue. And it's also having a social media presence that the staff is aware of. I've toured with the drum and bugle corps across the country, and sometimes there's gaps in even letting a door stay open because they just don't figure something's going to happen. So some of those preventative measures where there's processes in place so that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. It's not just, it's getting out there and exposing the kids to what they can do. You can't just let their minds just be idle and get into trouble and start to think of themselves and the issues they might have. They need the help, and we need to be more aware of that. And it kind of sucks because it just kind of tanked as it went. Everybody was doing well in the 90s, but the kids were starting to suffer. And, it was an issue of gun violence in California as well, but it was gang violence. So everybody ignored it. They all had to go through metal detectors. So it didn't become an issue until it started to hit more affluent areas, and the same mental issues back then are here now. So it's just solving that.
Well, and if I could just add here, just to touch on the mental health, I don't know if anyone saw the KCRG interview that I did over the winter, talking about mental health and gun violence, and essentially called out the governor for being lieutenant governor when they shut down the mental health facilities. And then they, in return, said that, these things should be put back on the counties, which touches on the whole taxation issue, because they want us to use our own money for this stuff, but they won't let us tax for it.
And this question is for Sheriff Kennedy. How is the sheriff's office working to connect with the community, for example, through outreach?
Well, traditionally, we just we kind of connect through the community in the way that we operate. We have a very good reputation in the community for being reasonable. We have a very low use of force as a result of that. Our officers do a good job because they start in the jail and they deal with daily conflict resolution and dealing with people who maybe don't want to do exactly what the officer wants them to do, but they need to do it because that's what we need to do to keep security in the building. And they just learn how to talk to people. And so I think when they get out on calls and they're dealing with people, they deal with people in a very rational, reasonable manner. And I think we have a very high satisfaction rate among the community in the way that our deputies deal with the public. In addition to that, we are involved with the SRO program through the Western Dubuque Community School District, and I also personally go out. I call them county days, where I go out and just go out and stop in at business places, talk to people, just to have the sheriff's office face be seen out in the public, and allow people, if they have questions, they're welcome, or concerns, they're welcome to bring them up at that time.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to talk about how their position does or could engage with the community?
Yeah, I can take that up a little bit. So we try to work with, this time of year right now, we are training 300 poll workers from all across the country, or all across the county. These are our friends, families, neighbors. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everybody of that as we get ready to walk into our polls. But that requires a massive recruitment effort, and so we really do need to keep everybody aware of what what our needs are. Some of our programs for outreach and letting the community know what we do. Oh, sorry, that was a rebuttal. My bad.
Yep, sorry, just 30 seconds. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think if we all just think about your community as a whole, we all have different positions, different families, schools, neighborhoods, business, whatever we deal with. If we just take a moment and interact with each other a little bit more and make it more of a community, like people are really happy to be in a good community like this, a smaller town like Dubuque and Dyersville and throughout, but just take a minute to experience each other as a person a little bit more. I think that helps, do wonders for everybody throughout the day.
Thank you. This question is for the supervisors again. We'll start with Mr. Rios. Clean air and clean water are important to the health of every Iowan, and we have problems now. Going forward, how can we make Dubuque County a healthier place to live?
I think that's working with, in terms of agriculture, with my family being involved out west, it's incentivizing farmers to start to use better practices. And former county supervisor Wayne Demmer is involved in, I believe, the Dubuque watershed. And there's another organization that's out there that's looking to improve on practices that happen in the ag industry. And that's where we need to really incentivize some of that and be the advocate for better practices, because there's a great book that I was given to by someone talking about the hog farms and everything else, and how that's polluting our water, and it's such an insight to what's going on and how we can improve. And as I've said, there's practices going on in other parts of the world that we can tap into, and we're starting to basically get that idea now, and we can definitely start advocating as supervisors for programs and incentives and things like that, working with our business communities and smaller towns, because the downside to it is if these farms aren't sustainable, in the end, what do we end up having? We may end up having corporate farms everywhere, and they've grown so much out west that they're starting to slowly make their way coming out east, and we don't want that, because corporate farms don't actually contribute to the areas that they're near. So it has a long-term effect, not just in the short term.
Thank you. Mr. Potoff.
Okay. The county has invested significantly in the soil and water conservation in the watersheds. Our watershed director, Eric Schmeichel, has recently, last year, they did a joint grant application with the Sand County Foundation out of Wisconsin, and they were awarded a large grant. They're currently working on the fall seeding program, where they're going out with drones and getting the cover crops put onto the fields. This all leads towards our water quality. The water quality is a huge issue here. We have the watershed flood protection going on right now, trying to figure out ways to prevent the flooding through different farming practices, whether it's buffer strips or just all kinds of different things that can be done. Like I said, the fall seeding also to prevent the erosion and keep the nitrates and phosphates out of our water system.
Thank you. Another question for the supervisor candidates. The Farley Library was projected to cost $2.5 million, and the project was reduced to $400,000. Was this good or bad? And we'll start with Mr. Potoff.
The city of Farley was originally awarded $2.5 million for a library project. They were going to raise $1.1 million to get up to the $3.5 million cost of the project. Through the process of getting the planning and everything completed, the cost of the project went up substantially, and it was not going to be feasible for them to raise the amount of money needed to build a new building. They had found another location, which was an older church, and that they could purchase for, I believe, $400,000, and they would need $250,000 to finish that out. We allowed them to switch the funding reduce the funding to the 400,000, and they just had to raise the 250,000 for their portion of the building. I believe it was a lot better deal for the residents of the city of Farley. I don't believe there was a way they were going to come up with I think it was over 2 million that they were going to need to raise to put the new library in.
Thank you. Mr. Rios, your answer.
So in regards to the Farley, I know that they would have preferred to have a better and bigger facility. And maybe I got a different impression that they had issues with staffing and how they couldn't properly prepare a budget, or there were flaws and throwing up red flags here and there. And that ECIA at one point offered help, but that help was, I wouldn't say refused, but kind of pushed back and told to go back to the drawing table and come up with something cheaper. So the supervisor's involvement in that, should have been to advocate for the city of Farley and to find as much help as they could have gotten to create that facility. So I think they took their best route that they saw possible, which was to take a cheaper option. And I'm sure they would have wanted something much better, but my impression was that they had the ability to go forward at certain points, and it just was kind of blocked along the ways, or it wasn't followed through. So it is what it is. They now have something, maybe they can build upon that and possibly expand in the future, but I do wish they could have done more, because that was important for that community. So just being there just to help them find the way. The county is there to help the smaller cities in terms of these kind of huge projects. They don't have the staff, so the county should be out there to keep pushing along and get things going. So it's not rocket science. So be out there to help the small towns. It's as simple as that. So I'm tired of excuses that come along and go to the paper. So it just is what it is.
Thank you. We have a question for all the candidates. But I'm trying to figure out where to start. I think actually the supervisors makes more sense. So we'll start with Mr. Rios and then go through, since you answered the last question first. So what was learned from the theft of the resource funds? How can this not happen in the future? Or how can it be avoided in the future?
Man, that's a loaded question, ain't it? Can I just give him my time? But anyways.
I mean, if you want to, you can do anything you want.
So, that's a tough subject, because the county was the victim of the $500,000. Could other processes been in place beforehand? Well, if you have a crystal ball, you could have seen that. And, I don't know. That's just a hard issue to kind of see coming to you. And yeah, there could have been processes in place prior to that, but I don't know. You can't predict something like that's going to happen, and you hope it doesn't happen. Could they have possibly have beefed up some of that stuff in advance, dedicated to certain processes along the way before it would have happened? Maybe coming up with a plan B and C if something like this were to happen. It's all in hindsight. They can't. I'm assuming now the process is more streamlined and more secure, but that's not to say it isn't going to happen again. These people are pretty smart that break into your stuff, and you might not even think it's there in your email, but it is. Somewhere in a picture, you allow the pictures to come in, and all of a sudden you're linked to something else. So it's a hard issue, that the county got cheated, the city of Dyersville got cheated, and I'm not sure what else more you can do besides come up with better practices. And I know the auditor's office has a lot of stuff to worry about. Could this have been a priority prior to that? For sure, it could have been, but you can't predict something like that's going to happen. And in the end, I got 0 seconds.
Mr. Dragato.
Yeah, so first off, everybody in this room knows about the Dyersville matter because I told you about it. Transparency is exceedingly important. My opponent here, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this, is walking around the county talking about curated screenshots and snippets of emails with names redacted, attributing it to me. I think we just heard candidate Rios talk about how the county and the city were victims of a highly sophisticated crime. Our office has strong policies and procedures in place. We had strong policies and procedures in place. We were the first department in the county to offer cybersecurity training to all of our employees in 2022. But again, unlike the message from my opponent, this is not about cybersecurity. Dubuque County did not have a failure in cybersecurity. In fact, we were rated in the 98th percentile for cybersecurity in the state. And so when we talk about not having steps in place, I'm not quite sure what he's referring to. We have systems where you can put up all the walls in the world and they're still going to get around it. Penny transfers would not have stopped this. These were valid, legitimate emails. Any solution from a Monday morning quarterback is great. That's wonderful. But when you're there and you're doing the work and you realize that no matter how many barriers you put up, something else is going to occur, this is why we have insurance and this is why we have coverage for things like this, because sometimes you wake up in the morning and you don't plan on getting into a car accident, but you have an insurance policy there to cover you.
Thank you. Mr. Lucy.
Sure, appreciate it. The what has been described as an interception and a highly sophisticated cybercrime, a lot of people can probably relate to when they see this as a phishing email. A lot of people say, I've heard other supervisors say, well, we're understaffed, we're overworked, mistakes happen. Other supervisors said all the policies and procedures were in place. I work in the financial institutions and in claims where we verify everything before we pay it. I had a client the other day. I know it's their truck. I know we've got to pay it. I said, I need to verify and see the title of this first. Hey, wait, I can't pay you. I have to pay them because they're the leaseholder on this. So there's amount of verifications and training. I've talked with dozens of financial institutions and even where I work in claims. That's what I was saying specifically. The skill sets that I bring to this, I've never had this happen. And the financial institution says, yeah, there's all the times these things happen. Attempts happen. You want to thwart that by having the right procedures in place. So if Dyersville has always been paid by a check, they say, hey, we prefer to have it wired to this account. Okay. Well, if you're going to wire it to an account, you have to verify every step of the way. And even a micro transfer, a penny transfer, if you use the number that's on the application, that's from North Carolina, yeah, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't help. But if you call up someone that's actually in the office and verify them, I think that would make a huge difference.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, so obviously with this case, we are the investigating agency on this. And as far as the policies and things that are in place and how that all kind of happened, that's kind of outside of my purview. But what I can say is basically what we have said the whole time. We can show and we have shown, and the auditor has shown that that this was an email that came from an actual City of Dyersville email address that was essentially hijacked. They had basically a dump file where the person that was monitoring this email, anytime an email came in or from a specific individual, in this case our budget director, that email went into this dump file so that this person could respond using the actual email address from the person in Dyersville. And so I think it's important to remember that, according to FBI statistics, this is a multi-billion-dollar a year thing that happens. Since this happened, there has been at least 2 other 6-figure losses in this county. They just happen to private individuals or private businesses and not county employees. And so it never made the paper. So these things happen, and the best thing that a person can do is try to make the policies and procedures in place so that it doesn't happen again.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy.
Well, it was kind of a learning experience for us. It made us kind of buckle down and relook at our procedures that we do in our office. Although I'm very old-fashioned, I still send a check for everything. And the ACH accounts that we have are zeroed out. So it was just a time for us to recheck all of our policies and procedures that we have in place. We took some online trainings through our IT department so that everyone knew, emails coming through and whatnot there. It was just a time for us to just relook at our policies. But again, being old-fashioned and sending checks, I didn't really have a lot to do as far as that.
Lisa, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Lucy continues to talk about these being phishing emails. They were not phishing emails for the county. Dyersville may have been a victim of a phishing email, but the emails we received were official emails from the city of Dyersville. No editing from the main email address. So this is not, and this is not a cybersecurity issue for Dubuque County. So by characterizing it as we somehow succumb to a phishing scam is frankly, a gross misrepresentation of the facts.
Thank you. Mr. Potoff, you're the last to answer the question.
This obviously has been a learning curve for everyone in the county. Basically, it could have been prevented very easily. It did come from a valid address. I think we had a couple employees that one believed the other one vetted it back and forth. It's the human factor. When humans are involved, there can be mistakes. I do not intend to hold any employees accountable for it. Anyone that wants to, throw the first rock can, because I'm not going to. I've made mistakes in my life. All we can do is move forward and hopefully prevent this from happening again.
On a rebuttal with that too is, even if I got an email that looked like it's from my customer and they requested a complete change in the process of payment, I would have verified not only the account, but with that person. Hey, I just want to check here. Kevin, are you sure is this the account that you want this to go to? That would have stopped it alone. And as far as the phishing emails, there's different levels of phishing emails. There's one from the Nigerian prince. There's also ones that might have one email on there that's correct, but the other email on there was not spelled correctly. There's two people on that email, and one did not have the correct
This email
extension.
didn't look like it was from a vendor. It was from a vendor. It was an official email. And again, you conflate phishing with a situation that did not occur in the county. We were not phished. We were not scammed. Our cybersecurity was not compromised.
Okay.
I don't know how many different ways.
We
that
are
can
going to
say
move
that.
on to the next question because we have
Agreed.
one for recorder. So, Ms. Kennedy, your office works with many areas, including taxes, vital statistics, and more. Which areas present the most challenge to your office and why?
It's all challenging, honestly. I mean, it's real estate probably, just because there's so many standards and legalities that come with the filing of the real estate documents. The vital records holds challenges too, just because only certain people are entitled to those records, and proving the entitlement sometimes can be challenging for people. The Department of Natural Resources, that's usually the least challenging of all of them. It's just a matter of having the correct paperwork to register your off-road vehicle. So I'd have to say the real estate provides the most challenges.
Thank you. Question, a totally new, different topic question for the auditors. And we will begin with Mr. Lucy, as Mr. Dragato answered the last question before him. Many are concerned with the security of our elections, and obviously this is a topic that's important to the League of Women Voters. How is your office prepared to ensure secure and fair elections?
They do a great job down there right now with the elections. I know Jenny Hillary and Nick Fish, naturally the auditor oversees that as the commissioner of elections. In Iowa, one of the best things we have is voter ID, where you actually have signatures and voter verification so you know when they go in, this is who this person is. And it's still a small community, but you still have people that are in and out. Not everybody knows everyone. The training of all the poll workers, that's key. All that stuff. And there's just, like I said, recruiting enough people to do that so they're not overworked. But there's a lot that goes into it. And I think the training of the poll workers is key, and just making sure you have all the procedures in place there as well.
Thank you. Mr. Dragato.
So I am the elected president of the Iowa State Association of County Auditors for District 6, and I oversee and assist that district, which is the largest in the state, with training and best practices for all aspects of the auditor's office, but including elections. I also sit on the state election administrator training board, where we come up with programs and training directives for every staff member across the state. In Dubuque County, we usually hover around 93% of voters registered. We have paper ballots, which Iowa is a paper ballot state, so when we want to talk about security of elections, we can follow that ballot from start to finish. Even if you're using our fantastic new accessibility devices, they still generate a paper ballot. One quick clarification, we do not have signature verification in the state of Iowa, but we do have voter ID, which also creates a stronger environment. I'm credentialed through Auburn University with a CERA designation. It's a Certified Elections Registration Administrator, and that's the highest level of elections training you can receive in the United States. And Jenny Hillary, my deputy, also holds that same training. We care about our elections. We are vigilant with our elections. We have not had any issues as far as security goes, as far as people voting out of line. The citizens of Dubuque County are all very, very nice and great when they come and vote. 99.9% of the time, we experience no problems, and we don't expect to experience any problems.
Thank you. Another question for everybody. So we'll begin with Ms. Kennedy, and we'll go back this way just to ensure equal time. What do you believe the biggest challenge is to the county?
That's a tough one. Just because I mainly stick to my recorder's office, that's kind of a tough question for me to answer. So I'll pass that on to the next person.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy.
I guess the thing that I probably see the biggest issue with is ongoing funding with our tax base and everything else. This county runs lean. I don't think people realize that, but we run very lean. We run with minimal staffing, and we do the best we can to try to provide all the services that the community deserves with that limited staffing. And many of our offices are operating with the same amount of staffing they did 30 years ago when the county had 10 to 15,000 fewer population. We haven't really responded to that, and that's one of the issues that affects our department is, we are continuously trying to right-size our department for the growing community and try to be prepared for the future. This community at some point is going to cross 100,000 people, and when you're trying to serve 15,000 more people with the same number of bodies, it just mathematically doesn't work. So to me, I think the ongoing the taxation and the ongoing funding to be able to do those kind of things and provide the services for the community, I think is probably one of the biggest issues we got.
Thank you. Mr. Lucy, your answer?
Yeah, just to touch on the last thing too about the election certification, congratulations on getting it. It's important, and I appreciate the passion that people have in that. That's why I've enrolled in the program as well. The good thing is almost anybody can enroll in that. It's a course there, it's about 12 credit hours, which, as most people probably know, average college semester is 15 credit hours. So yeah, I'm definitely enrolled in that, and I think it'll help with anybody in that position. As far as with the county, you mentioned, yeah, definitely the funding. I think housing, I had a real good conversation with the gentleman the other night about housing is one of the biggest things we need in here to help draw people into the community. And if they have a great place to live, everything else is great. The affordability of living in Dubuque. I lived down in the Carolinas for about 15 years. I moved away after college and moved back here because the housing was affordable. The schools are great. We've got a great community here. Think about if we could get more housing in this community, that's going to bring in more people, more families, more tax base as well, which will help cure up a lot of the things there. So I think if there's a way to focus more of the housing in some of these areas, some large open land spots right now, it doesn't have to be single-family homes. It could be multiple dwellings, all kinds of things that help bring people in and get them started back in the community. And some of these college kids that are graduating from here, that are from different parts of the country, help them to stay here.
Thank you. Mr. Dragato.
I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but most issues that are within our control as a county, we're not out building houses, but most of those issues that are within our control all tie back to tax dollars, finances, and unfunded and underfunded mandates. It's a common practice that when our state legislator knocks the door of a citizen here in Dubuque County, that citizen's going to say, my taxes are too high. My taxes are too high. You have to do something. And then when a county candidate knocks that door, they're going to say, my road's not fixed. I want another park. I need something else. And so there's a disconnect at a local level with the understanding of what the county is responsible for, how we have our funding streams, and where we have to allocate them by law in many cases. And so one of the largest challenges, especially the fact that Sheriff Kennedy mentioned, we run lean. Our health department is 6 people, and Lynn County's health department is 24 people, and they've got about 35,000 people on us. So it all ties back to the continued needling and underfunded and unfunded mandates from the state that chip away at our operating revenue. It's a problem that will require a holistic approach. It's not one the county can fix by itself. It'll take the entire state to come together.
Thank you. Mr. Rios, your answer.
The biggest challenge for counties, like as everyone has said prior to me, it's varied. Everybody's big levers are different versus their smaller ones. So someone down in the 4th Ward could give a rat's butt about whether or not there's a park on the western side of the county, because they're more worried about the slumlords that they have to rent from. It's different, varied across the whole county. So it's a matter of, in the end, it's outreach. It's that people need to know that people are there to listen to them and hear their issues. Your farmer may have an issue that's totally different from someone else. Some people believe that there's a childcare issue in the county, and there is for the outlying cities. But at the same rate, there's plenty of spots available, but it's also a perception. People have a perception that childcare is in the hood versus on the good side of town, so they don't send their kids there. They don't give that business an opportunity, kind of thing. And it's correcting those perceptions that yes, your people think too much about the popular opinion too many times, and don't get the word on the street, the correct information. And that happened too many times with the city too, So it's just a matter of getting out that outreach out. The auditor's office has done it in the past. I'm sure the sheriff's office has done it, but I haven't been paying attention to your Facebook. So, but that's our job, is to reach out to the citizens and be there for them. So.
And Mr. Potoff, what do you believe is the biggest challenge to the county?
Funding our programs is obviously the biggest challenge that we're facing. The housing is an issue. At the county level, we're really not involved in that very often. The smaller towns, your Piasta, Epworth, Farley, are expanding with their housing, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the county. We don't have anything going on in the county itself. Any projects that would be coming, we would definitely be willing to assist with TIF or whatever to make those projects move forward. Again, just providing the funding for our purchase of service, whether it's, funds for the labor harvest, for the food giveaways to help those needy, all the nonprofits that are looking for funding to help their programs keep moving, whether it's the Fountain of Youth or Operation Empower. They're dealing with people that have addiction issues, and they need funding to do this. And a lot of that funding comes through the county. Well, if we keep losing our funding, obviously we have to cut someplace, and we don't want to have to cut our nonprofits, because that's what kind of keeps us moving forward also.
Thank you. Each candidate now has 2 minutes for closing remarks. We'll begin with Mr. Potoff and go through the line.
I'm running for a second term. I was born and raised in Dubuque County. I love Dubuque County. I want to see it keep moving forward. I'm involved in the community with several projects. I'm on several boards. All of them are moving things forward to get us more, tourism dollars generated, whether it's the Field of Dreams or the DRA board and the casino in Chaplain Schmidt Island, or all these projects help showcase Dubuque County and the small businesses. And the more people we bring in, the better our small businesses do. It gives them the opportunity to expand and move forward. So I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rios.
All right, so I made sure that I put this at the bottom and I boxed it and everything because I always seem to forget this, but thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us here. I appreciate that the public can come out and watch it on television or here in person. So I'm running because I'm going to toot my own horn because I know how to play the tuba, so I might as well toot it, right? So when it comes down to it, I do have experience in terms of, see, I got a wife right over there. So in terms of my experience, I served on the city council. I've seen what at times when someone has too much influence, what happens, and the lack of transparency that person had, and it took 4 people to try to question what he was doing, and then that was usurped by 3 others. So I don't want to see that continue to happen at the county level, where there might be shifting here and there and how things go about, and I don't like that. And I have had experience through my family and growing up. I probably would have been doing something in the ag industry had it not been for the fact that I could play an instrument and that I loved doing that, and that I ended up finding a job later on. And through that, it allowed me to then travel in different parts of the world. It allowed me to travel to other cities in the Middle East and everything else through my business, because I felt that need to educate myself beyond just what I had in my college degree. So I knew that that experience has led me to here. I know what it takes to develop a budget and to work with people on what is needed and what is just fluff. I have the experience in my past, and I believe I can better help the county in this position. And like Harley, I would appreciate your vote as well. I think we have 2 great candidates, and Mr. Kennedy there and Harley, I can't thank these guys enough for what they did in their position as deputies and sheriff, because it takes a special person to do what you guys did.
Thank you.
Sure. So.
Mr. Dragato, 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Thanks, Lisa. And thanks again to the League for the forum this evening. It was fantastic. I've demonstrated that I run my office in the most transparent way possible. I've demonstrated that I strive to increase accessibility to all aspects of the auditor's office, not just elections. And I've shown that I'm accountable for the actions of my departments and my employees as well as my own. Some of the things that we are most proud of over the last 4 years are, first and foremost, the acquisition of the former Hendricks Feed and Seed building as the new Dubuque County elections, where for the next 100 years, people will get to come and exercise one of the most fundamental aspects of our government, and that's voting. And that was all at the cost of $1 by working with the city of Dubuque and treating them respectfully as the partner that they are. Additionally, we were able to outfit the entire interior of that building for less than $8,000, not affecting anybody's taxes, but drastically, exponentially increasing accessibility and how people can get in there to vote. I've received 2 national awards from the Federal Election Assistance Commission. This is the commission where the 3 commissioners are appointed by the president. And we beat out counties like Los Angeles County, California, the largest county in the country. And that's for creating programs that help those with disabilities access elections. and also for creating a statewide elections training program which we use to train professionals from across the state. I am awarded from my peers as well. The National Association of Election Officials has given us 3 awards, most recently for our collaboration with the Dubuque County Library System, getting bookmarks out there that help people make their voting plan. I'm a proven leader, a proven innovator, and I've proven that I have what it takes to run the auditor's office. Please make the correct decision and support me in the November election. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Lucy.
Thanks again, Lisa, and the League of Women Voters. And Lisa, you have done a great job. You've been on every question. There you go. I look forward to serving the entire county of Dubuque. I look forward to having it where it's not a partisan thing, because there's so many things that we all agree on. I've served throughout my life, whether it be in the military and volunteering, be it coaching, youth group leaders, Stephen ministry, board members. One friend sent me a card. I keep it on my desk today. He said, Keith, you are crazy in the best possible way. While we are thinking of small, manageable tasks, you are good at helping us see the possibilities. And that's what I want to see in Dubuque County overall. All of us working together to make this the best possible county it can be here. Many of the processes I've put in place in other organizations have been adopted as the norm, and literally saving time and money throughout organizations. I look forward to the opportunity to serve the entire county and bring my vast professional experience and leadership into this position to help make it the best it can possibly be. You can vote Keith Lucy. You can go to keithlucy.com if you're looking for more information about me, where to vote, how to vote, all that. All right. But I definitely appreciate it. I know we can do a lot.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, your closing remarks.
All right. As everyone else has, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us tonight. Also like to thank the lady and gentleman here who have stepped up to commit themselves to public service. It's one of the great things that a person can do in our community. I took this position, almost 8 years ago, and I ran at the time under the promise that I'd give you consistency with this office, and I think I've shown that. I think I've shown great leadership of the office. Thanks to my time, I'm also a veteran of 5 years, and that's where I gained most of my leadership training. I was a deputy before I took this office. I was not in a leadership position, and I was blessed to have leadership experience from the military that helped me. In addition to a lot of the people in leadership positions, like at the time, my sergeant Harley Potoff, but when I took the office, I was blessed to have a good staff that really helped me be successful and helped me learn the ropes. And now, 8 years later, I just hope that we've been able to show that the consistent leadership that the sheriff's office has paid off. We continue to look at cutting edge things to do for this county so that we can always try to be progressive and trying to address the current needs of the county in public safety and in a respectful and courteous manner. So thank you all.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy.
Being the county recorder, it's not just a job to me. It's more of a trust of the citizens of Dubuque County, trusting me to properly handle their records. My staff and I, we work hard every day to earn and honor that trust. I've worked in the recorder's office for over 30 years. I'd love to continue to serve the citizens of Dubuque County as the county recorder. I'd appreciate your vote. And again, thank you to Lisa and the League of Women Voters for putting this all together.
Thank you. Thank you all for your participation tonight. The League would like to thank the City of Dubuque Cable Channel for airing tonight's forum. The forum may be viewed on City Channel Dubuque, Cable Channel 8, or Digital 117.2. It will be streamed live on the City Facebook page and website, www.cityofdubuque.org/livestream. Tomorrow evening, Thursday the 10th, the league will host the state legislature candidate forum starting here at 5:30. And to the audience, thank you for your questions. Remember to use your power citizens and vote on November 5th. Have a good night.